Change, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work the way they want it to work. It's single target damage. I tested a bit on beta. Its target damage is way better, or not way better, but it's better than it was previously. And that makes it for good for bossing, but the spread is too small and too slow, and you have to deal with necro frames that I don't think it's going to work for a mapper. That's
We both had the same opinion on Innocence Martyrdom. You're going to eventually die, and so that doesn't really work. You could blood warp from pack to pack, but that kind of can have issues in itself of consistency. And then trying to do the Vigor build, I think maybe there's a possibility, but just trying to rely on enemy AI to ensure maps content getting cleared doesn't really function. So what this basically is what it always was, a melee necromancer with bad frames trying to rely on FCR, FHR, IAS, and FABR. And it's just impossible to balance it all.
So I want you to take that intro from Wheat Solo's channel. And if you're not subscribed over there, go sub. He's close to 1,000 subs himself. But it's a lesson in why you should, even if your opinion is coming from an expert, you should do your own research. That doesn't mean you should, give it to conspiracy theories, but expert opinion is something to be weighed along with all other evidence. And that does not mean I'm right or anything because I thought it was good or anything like that. They might still have different opinions on it, or same opinion, I don't know. But the point is, Poison Strike is all the rage. And it is a very good mapper. It is a very good bosser. But at the same time, this is sort of why you have to weigh expert opinion along with everything else. And for the record, if there's ever an opinion I have that is differing from Wheat and Woog, at least on game mechanics, you should probably trust them 99% of the time. They know way more about this game than I could ever hope to. But again, this is the lesson in expert opinion here. And to get the channel back to basics, we'll talk about some analogy here. So in law, you are not allowed to testify to anything that you do not have direct knowledge of. That would be called hearsay. If you say, for example, John, who I'm suing, said X to me on this date. That's fine because it's a statement by party opponent. What you can't say is, Linda told me that John said. No. Linda has to come in herself and testify to what she heard John say. You can't daisy chain this. And that also goes for opinions of experts. You have to have someone certified as an expert before they can testify on a certain subject, which means going through their credentials, how long they've been in the field, what are their qualifications, have they published any papers, and a litany of other questions before the court will certify them as an expert. And this is a loose line here. To give you an example, I had a case where a Nissan Silvia, which is a classic car only made in Japan, was the largest piece of item in a divorce, or largest piece of property. And we simply couldn't price it. I mean, in the Virginia Beach area where I live, a Nissan Silvia is incredibly rare, but no one really wants it. This was a guy who specifically was collecting Japanese cars. As a matter of fact, it had some damage to it. We couldn't even source parts to it to fully repair it for at least 2 years. We had to source the parts directly from Japan. So what we had to do was bring in a local mechanic, someone who had 30 years in the field, and have him testify to what he knows about the area, who the potential buyers would be. And even then, the court didn't certify him as an expert, but still allowed him to give his opinion during the case. So expert opinion needs to be weighed. Are you a true expert? Are you an amateur, which is technically someone with less than 10,000 hours of study on a subject? And even then, experts get things wrong all the time or flat out disagree with each other. One of the things we also use all the time, especially in places where spousal support is up for grabs, like Virginia, is business income capacity evaluators. These are generally former attorneys who have some sort of expertise in valuing what someone could make on the open market in the current job situation that they're, seeking. And what happens is there's really only 3 or 4 business investigators in the area here, really for the whole state. And then one side hires one dude, the other side hires another, and sure enough, those two will give very separate opinions on what someone's earning potential is. And even before talking to the person that we're trying to get income evaluated on, I know at least one of the experts that we use frequently asked me what I needed out of the case. Really? Like, that's not going to taint my witnesses or my expert witness's testimony when he knows exactly what I need him to say in court, but he still asked. So, expert opinion. Again, that's why you take it with a grain of salt. And, again, not to call out them in the slightest bit. I'm sort of using them as an example, which is why I'm saying go over that channel and sub if you want anything Necromancer, or just really related to the game in general. Wheat Solo and Woogs are probably two of the most knowledgeable people that are active on the Discord. And with their own channel. So what we're going to do is an audit. I'm not calling it a power ranking. I'm not calling it a tier list. We're calling it an audit. And what I'm going to do is sort of revive this series, but do it a lot slower. We are not going to talk about any classes I have not played personally. We are not going to talk about any classes that I have just made up on Pluggy because someone requested them. I will not be taking requests. These will all be classes that I have played, leveled, mapped, bossed with. I have to know this class inside and out. I have to have spent significant time playing it, and we'll go from there. So, since we are auditing this, it's not a ranking, it's not a tier list. I'm calling it an audit, that's how I'm getting around this. Well, we are going to have some categories, and I'm going to talk about them all kind of loosely, because again, I'm not putting a number on these. It's what is going on with this category. We're going to call these categories mapping, bossing, fun, wrist melting, and gearing. So on mapping, this was the surprise of the season. Poison Strike is incredibly good at mapping. You do have to balance out a lot of stats on it, which is the problem with it. You heard Wheat and Woog talking about that at the start of this video. The stats you really got to balance. IAS, I think, is a fake one. I don't think that is necessary. That is a completely feel thing for the build and can be solved with a beast on an Act 3 Merc. And if you want a good example of this, go to the date this video was released, the showcase, Senpai's stream showcase for the characters. The very last character was a fully decked out Poison Strike Necromancer. It is essentially the exact same build that I had, with a little bit less life, because it was built as a pure mapper, and it had the beast Caduceus on Act 3, and you can see that. So when you have that Caduceus, you only need one IAS corrupt on something, and you're fine. I don't have an IAS or a beast. I just have 10 IAS for hitting the first breakpoint, and it's fine. So I think that's a fake stat to balance. Don't fall for that. At least when you're gearing on low levels. The ones you really got to balance out are faster block rate. You can go for, I forget what the breakpoints are, but you need 40 or 60. And 40 is fine. 60 is really where you want to get, but then 60 limits your gear options. You got to get something on your shield, like 2 shales, which is going to take up 2 sockets. A corrupt, which will take up a socket. A steel shade that locks you into your helmet, not a bad option, and then you're really locked into water walks. And if you want to do declone, getting 8 corrupted max fire res fire walks is a burr rune minimum. So that's a problem. However, the other stats, like I said, AR, you can find AR corrupts on like a Nature's Peace, which is probably one of your go-to rings because you need life and you need survivability for this class. And really life. I really don't think there's anything other than that. I think all the other stats are quality of life things to make it feel better. But no, it's really, can you get your faster block rate? Can you get your life up? Because if you have your life up and just a little bit of PDR, that bone shield will take care of all the melee. And a little bit of PDR will take care of the archers. So I think you're good in that point. Bossing. Can it boss? Yes, absolutely. It is a very good bosser. I've shown it can do declone 0 with pretty much relative ease. I can't get tier 2 down with it. I'm not a very good player. However, most of the Necro is the hardest one to kill declone with, and I think I've only seen people do it with Desecrate with about 3k life. So trying that with 2-5, which is what I have, and not max PDR was painful. There is a way to do it probably. It's called Bone Flame, Crown of Ages, and for Dungos, and then you need some nasty corrupts to get that everything in line there, and nearly perfect PDR on all those items too. It can do Rathma as well if you're running the Innocence build. That does come with poison length reduced and max poison res. It's not a venom ward, but you can get to 90 pretty easily and still keep the Innocence on. Ubers, it absolutely shreds Ubers. It is one of the best bossers in the game, hands down. Don't need to, I can give it a ranking. It's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10 there. I'll give you one ranking. Fun. So, how do I rank fun? How do I can talk about fun, right? This is why we're not doing rankings. It is ridiculously fun to play if you can get over that twitchy style, which is sort of what we're going in with wrist melting. It is high APM. It is something that you need to practice. If you're not good at this style, if you're not good at playing Poison Nova like I wasn't, this one's going to be just as hard. It's harder to play than Poison Nova because you got to make sure and get that visual cue that your attack is going off, which you really don't need with Poison Nova. You can see the Nova spreading, right? But the Nova from your Plague when you're running this is not what's going to kill many things. It'll weaken them. Think of it like a static field in a way, but you need to make sure that that poison cloud goes off, and it is going to be very difficult to know that and survive when you don't have the gear up. Really, the innocence is what kicks this whole build off. So it is, like I said, ridiculously fun because it has the ability to clear just ridiculous high life, high density maps, and that feels good. When I ran that 200 throne showcase with 48% increased life, yeah, that was just I was just laughing the whole time because it was just fun to watch everything on the screen explode as I feel like I'm moving through molasses with my character. Again, we sort of already talked about wrist melting. Just remember, if you got carpal tunnel in both hands, and not sure if you guys can actually see it, but you got a nasty... Can you see that? I'm an idiot. Ooh, there you go. A scar on your arm that's 6 inches long because you ripped apart your wrists as a kid. Yeah, this is going to hurt. My left hand and right hand do not feel good playing this class. That's why I have not been playing it that much in the season and built another character. I was focusing on the bosses and taking time on trading because it's just like if I was mapping all day with this, my fingers would be falling off. Gearing. This is sort of the problem with this class. You can level as it. It's getting into mapping is that initial jump that is very difficult, and I would rather just be playing Teeth. So, the Innocence. Zod runes have gone through the roof. When I bought my Zod, I got it for 1.5. They are now 3.5. That's a whole 2 extra high runes of value you got to get to start this up. Chams. When I got my Cham, I got it for 0.5. Those are 1.5 minimum now. So now we're talking about a 5 high rune investment just to get the 2 big runes to start this build. That's a lot. This is hard to gear. And guess what? You can't just buy you can buy regular poison bone skillers to start, but you really want the lifers. These are already some of the most expensive skillers in the game, other than summon druid and summon necro, and you got to get life on them. This is not a cheap class. Plain and simple. It has a high entry point. It has a high end game point. It is just a money sink the entire time. And guess what? If you're building this and you're not intending to do declone with it, I don't know what you're doing. Or wrath with it, I don't know what you're doing. So then you're going to need a second set of gear, probably one for mapping, one for declone, and maybe probably one for Rathma as well. So this is a money sink. This is an Elizabeth Olsen class. I really should have started with something else, but at the same time, it's sort of weird to say that because I got this class for a couple high runes cheaper than it should have been starting out. But if I want to upgrade my 9-roll blade shield on my Innocence, there's another investment I got to make. So this is an Elizabeth Olsen class. It should be played, I think, at the end of everything. Maybe start with Teeth, map for a while, build up your wealth. When you're bored of Teeth, you can just completely switch over. Even CE would probably be just as fine as well. I mean, CE kicks off when you get the fire facets and things like that, but you could start CE with this run here and do just fine and respec later on. So these will be quick. That's how I want to do them. Just want to go over what you should kind of know about the class, throw on some sort of highlight in the background so you can see it work, and go from there. I will probably do some of the other classes that I have done in the past, like my hybrid summons on, things like that. Blade Sentinel, once I have a little bit better feel for it. Kind of figured that one out, though, already. And like I said, I'm not taking requests on this one. If you want me to figure out Cold Arrow, okay, I played Cold Arrow, but not long enough. It's been like 4 seasons. I can't speak to Cold Arrow anymore, so I don't have an opinion on that. You can check with Wapinator on any of the Druid classes, the Paladin stuff. Again, he plays Paladin and Druid. I tend to stay away from those two. Yeah, and we'll go from there. See you guys later.